Hello, welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Podcast. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard. That's L-E-N-A-R-D. It looks French. It's not. It's Leonard without an O. Thank you for tuning in. As Graham Norton used to say on his show, let's get on with the show! Joining me today is Gaylen Wilson. Now, many of you, if you're a regular to the show, probably recall I myself had TAVR heart surgery. So I have a pig or cow supplement to my main aorta valve in my heart. And that, to me, is miraculous enough. But my guest joining me today is an actual full heart transplant survivor. That to me is like off the charts amazing.
Yeah.
I know it's been done for a while, but it's still pretty darn amazing. Eh, Gaylen?
Yes. And that's the beauty of it. As you know, as I talked to University of Colorado back when I was going through the 3 days of testing that you had to go through before you could even get on the list. They had to make sure that there was nothing else wrong with the heart with you other than your heart problem, because if you had cancer or anything else, you weren't eligible. They only want to give a heart to somebody that is going to live.
Presumably going to live many years right. With it, yes.
Yeah. So they told me that the University of Colorado started back in '92 with their first transplants, and that the median age of survival was like a year and a half.
Whoa, yeah.
And so in 2017, when I went through the testing, they said it was up to 14 and a half years, and that it was going up as their patients aged. And so they've come a long way with the anti-rejection meds. And, you know, that is the biggest threat, is the same thing that keeps you alive is also slowly killing your kidneys.
Oh.
Yeah. The anti-rejection
meds. Oh boy. Yeah. So you're trading one problem for another in a little respect. Yeah. But let's back up.
Okay.
Where were you born and raised? Where are you now? Significant places you've been between?
I am about 1 mile from where I was raised.
Oh.
Now, I haven't stayed here all my life, but yeah, I was actually born in Denver and was adopted at 11 months.
And now, of course, I'm going to have Colorado, Rocky Mountain High, my ADHD, OCD brain. But go on, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We're having fun. So my parents actually, my adoptive parents actually lived in a little town called Stewart that is about 50 miles north of here, and it's no longer even there.
What happened to it?
Oh, it just became unnecessary. It was one of the railroad towns that the railroad built when they needed a town every 10 miles to fill up their engines with water and stuff, and they don't need those anymore. So so I live in a little town in southeast Colorado, and that my parents moved to in 1958, and so I in the late 80s I moved to Denver for 15 years, and then came back home in 2003, and so that's where it's a cool place. We've got a super Walmart, and it's 5 minutes to anywhere in town. We got everything we need.
So when did you discover you had heart problems?
Okay. Let me back up just a little bit. Heather and I met in 2002 after my first marriage failed. I was married at 20, had 4 kids by the time I was 26. And so when that marriage failed, Heather was actually the first girl I dated after after the marriage, and so I hit the jackpot right off the bat. And I had been studying some tantric sex, and one of the tenets of that is eye gazing, and eye gazing during lovemaking creates an incredible bond between a couple. And so we basically started off our relationship that way, and we never left the romance phase for 12 years. And so in 2014,
but that's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've got lots of shows in me. And so basically, in the winter of 2014, I got really sick around Christmas time. And being in the little town we're in, we don't get really good quality healthcare professionals here, because any of the good ones eventually go to the city to make more money. And so when I got sick, I went in, and the physician's assistant I saw said, "Oh, Gaylen, you've got pneumonia. Here's some antibiotics." Well, he didn't send me for a chest X-ray, which I found out was a huge no-no. As a professional, you don't diagnose pneumonia without a chest X-ray. And so anyway, I had bought an oxygen generator. My wife and I were traveling doing computer field service work, and we had a 3.5-month trip planned down through Oklahoma and Texas and Arizona, California, Oregon, Washington, Utah, and back home again. We had bought a motorhome for that trip. And so when it was time to go in January, the stuff coming up out of my lungs was clear. So I thought, hey, we're good to go. And I was still needing I had bought an oxygen generator that I still needed at night. And so we threw it in the motorhome, and away we went. But as we went, I just got weaker and weaker and more short of breath. And finally, we were in Corpus Christi, Texas, 1,000 miles from home. and we had a day off because the government offices we were working in were closed that day, and on President's Day. And so we went into a walk-in clinic because I thought the pneumonia was coming back. And they sent me for the chest X-ray, and they called me back that afternoon and said, "Mr. Wilson, you don't have pneumonia. You've got congestive heart failure. You need to get home to Colorado today." And so poor Heather, she's from a town of 300, and actually she grew up 7 miles outside of the town of 300. So she doesn't do city traffic really well. and not only that, but we hadn't had that motor home that awful long. I mean, 6 weeks she was doing a pretty good job of driving it, but she had to drive that thing the 1,000 miles home.
Yeah, not safe for you to drive it in your condition.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. The oxygen generator probably saved my life on that trip home. It probably saved my life in general on this whole trip because of having it to be able to have it at night. So anyway, it had a long hose on it so I could drag it up, and she made me come up and sit beside her in the chair when we drove through San Antonio. So we get back home to Southeast Colorado. You
were kind of her comfort animal.
Yeah.
Rather than have a comfort dog in the seat, she made you sit there.
Yeah. We had our dogs with us, but they weren't quite enough for San Antonio traffic. And so we get home. Of course, our little hospital here in town is just a triage hospital. Anything serious, and they send you to Colorado Springs. And so we get to the Springs by ambulance, and had we known that, we would have just drove ourselves up.
Yeah.
And so when they got me into their ER, they did some tests, did the echocardiogram and stuff, and a normal healthy human heart puts out 50 to 60% out of that left chamber every time it beats. They call that the ejection fraction. And so mine was 5%.
Whoa.
So, yeah, I was knocking on death's door.
You were not getting very much blood flow at all then.
No.
It's a good thing you didn't suffer a stroke then from it.
Very possible. I was near death. And so They gave me Lasix, which is a diuretic. And they took off 22 pounds in 2 days. That's nearly
Whoa.
That's nearly 3 gallons of water that was around my heart and lungs.
To help relieve some of the pressure.
Right, because that's why they call it congestive heart failure, because that water compresses the heart and lungs, and so they ended up putting it.
Full disclosure, I had a grandfather on my dad's side that died from that, so
okay,
I definitely know the seriousness of it. Yes,
yeah. So they put a defibrillator pacemaker in me, and by that summer they had me back up to 30%. Which is not 50 to 60%, but you can live a fairly decent life at 30%.
So, yeah, this makes a lot of sense because an obvious question was going to be, how did you get a heart so fast? So there was time between that and that, and you're in that time between. So they put a pacemaker to what? Just get you by, knowing you would need a transplant, or hoping that would suffice?
They were hoping that would suffice, and plus the reason it was a defibrillator also. So if the heart quit, it would shock it back into rhythm, and they did that because I had gotten on a bicycling kick 3 years previous to me getting sick, where I'd rode my bike for 100 miles a week for like 6 months. But October came, the snow flew, I put the bike away, and then it just never came back out. But it got my circulatory system in such good shape that my poor little 5% heart kept me alive.
The arteries, luckily, were open enough. You didn't have a massive cholesterol problem or hardening of the arteries, thankfully.
Yeah, they told me when they did the angiogram, where they go in through the leg and look, they said my heart was completely clear. There was no blockages whatsoever, but that virus had done a number on it. Yeah. And so anyway, so poor Heather had to watch me dying for 3.5 years, just slowly deteriorating. Because the next year I started going into AFib, and that's where your top part doesn't beat with your bottom part in synchrony. And so when your heart's weak and then it doesn't beat right, you're a sick man pretty quickly. And so
what year was that?
That was the January of 2015 that the AFib started. And so I had to get cardioverted probably, I don't know, 6-8 times over the next 3 years, 2.5 years. And
all that time you were then, at what point did they put you on a list to try to get you a heart?
Right. I didn't get on the list until December of 2017. And so, it's during that time on those long-term illnesses like that, where the patient's just slowly deteriorating, that's where a lot of relationships will crumble.
I can imagine.
The patient withdraws into themselves and pushes their caregiver away, or the caregiver just gets so exhausted they say, I can't do this anymore, I'm out. But Heather never hinted that she wanted out. That amazing bond that we had created during that first 12 years was carrying us through that. And in fact, I think it got stronger the further we went. The last 1.5 years, sex just became out of the question because.
Now she's probably wanting rid of you, right? No, I'm kidding. It's a joke, people. We're joking. We're laughing. It's a joke.
Yeah. She never hinted that she wanted that. She probably might have thought it for a couple of times.
So every once in a blue moon, I'm sure she has that thought, right?
Yeah. Well, and she had a rough time. I mean, it was rough on her to watch, because we were so close, and to watch somebody you're that close to deteriorating. But, even though sex became out of the question, we never lost our affection for each other. We still touched, we still eye gazed, we still clung to each other. And I think our bond actually got stronger during that time, until it was May of 2018, late May, my defibrillator went off one night. I've got a wonderful wife who has rubbed my back or legs for the last 24 years every night. And she was rubbing my legs and got shocked when that defibrillator went off. and evidently my body flopped up off the bed. You know, if you've seen the paddle thing where they put it on and go clear, well, that's what my body did. and she poked me and said, what just happened? And I said, I don't know. All I remember is feeling, man, I feel funky.
Yeah, well, you don't even remember. You went out, it brought you back, and you were none the wiser to it. Right. If she wouldn't have been there, you'd have never known.
Yeah, you're right. And so I turned back over and went to sleep. I wasn't in the mood. I wasn't in the mood to go to the ER and then have them send me to Colorado Springs. And she didn't get any sleep the rest of that night, you know, sitting over there poking to see if I'm still alive. and so I had a little mouse thing that I could pick up and hold over the top of the pacemaker defibrillator, and it would read it. And then I could set it in a cradle and it would send it over the cell service to Denver. And so I did that the next morning, and then I called him to see what it was up. And he says, oh, yeah, that's where the term drop dead comes from, because your heart rate had been 240 beats a minute right before that thing went off and reset it. If you had not had that in your body, you would have been dead on the spot. And so then the next week, my heart went back into AFib again, and I had to go to Denver and get cardioverted again. And so I've been cardioverted basically twice in a week. And that just took it completely out of me. I could tell I wasn't destined for this planet much longer. And so I set Heather down on June 19th of 2018 at 9:00 at night. Told her, honey, I'm not going to be here in 2 to 3 months. We need to finish getting ready. We'd been to the mortuary once. We needed to make final decisions. I'd only been on the list 7 months. So the handwriting was on the wall that I wasn't theoretically wasn't high enough on the list.
Those don't turn around in a hurry.
No. Yeah. And so, of course, she's crying her eyes out because her soulmate just told her he was going to be gone in 2 months. Half an hour after I told her that, we got the call there was a heart available.
Oh my. Wow.
Yeah.
See, you put her through all that for nothing. All your fault. If you could have just waited a few hours.
Just waited another half an hour. Yeah. And so we grabbed our little to-go bag like a pregnant couple keeps, and out the door we went, and we were having an eastern Colorado hailstorm that night.
Oh joy.
So for the first 100, it was a 200-mile drive to Denver, and the first 100 miles was in that just a huge storm, and it was going like mad outside, and the waterworks were still going inside because she had switched from crying because she was sad to crying because she was excited and scared, and because there was a 5% chance of me dying on that table.
Certainly. And I mean, anytime anesthesia is applied, there is a chance of not waking up. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's our odds are way better today than they were years ago, and probably will be better 20 more years from now. But there's always that risk.
Mm-hmm. And so they had given us till 1:30 in the morning to get there, and we snuck into that parking lot at 1:15. And I don't know how fast Heather went once we got out of that rainstorm, but I'm pretty sure she did not obey the speed limit on the interstate. And so they rolled me into the OR at 4:00. You know, typical doctor stuff. They want you there at 1:30, but they're not going to operate.
Hurry, so you can wait. Yes, of course.
And and then by 9:00 in the morning, they rolled me out with a 38-year-old heart in my 61-year-old body.
Do you know the person you got the heart from?
The way that works is you write a letter to the family at about 6 months, and then you give it to your transplant coordinator. They give it to Donor Alliance. Donor Alliance gives it to the family. And then, so I got a letter back from
that
his
it's
mom.
then up to them whether they
Right.
want to reach
Right.
out,
Right.
which I would imagine a lot do. But people want to know that their son or daughter's heart indeed is helping somebody.
Yeah, I had offered to come and meet them and let them listen to the heart, but when I got the letter from his mom, she said no, that she didn't want to do that. Her emotions were still too raw, even at a year out, and but she, she gave us her first name and her husband's first name and my donor's first name and his girlfriend's first name, and we plugged them all into the internet and looked for obituary, and we found his obituary, and but we didn't pursue the family any more than that.
Right.
And so I sent another letter at 4 years after my 4th year checkup to tell them how fantastic I was doing, but I haven't heard anything back from them now. I just finished my 8th year checkup in June, and so anyway.
So it's been 8 years you just let out.
Right. Yeah. And they basically told me that I'm going to die from something other than a heart problem, that this one is still perfectly clean, no plaque blockages.
Worry about your kidneys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully
exactly.
You don't land up on the kidney donor need list.
Well, and so far my kidney numbers have been staying really solid. So, I mean, they're a little elevated, and they have been ever since the transplant, but they haven't been going up, so that's a good thing. I keep a really close eye on that every time I get my blood.
Are you on a special diet for anything like that?
No, I'm no restrictions, or that's the basic misconception, is they basically fixed me. They dropped a Ferrari engine into this old Ford pickup. and so that's a big misconception, that I've got some kind of restriction on my activity, and no, I could do basically anything that.
Well, yeah, no, I was just worried conceivably about the diet because of the kidneys.
Yeah.
To make sure the kidneys, no drinking, I would take it.
Well, yeah. And I don't want to drink anyway, because I am a 20-year sober alcoholic too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we didn't discuss that.
Yeah,
so,
and that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show for sure.
Yeah.
So
and
obviously your drinking days didn't help the heart situation, but thankfully didn't damage the kidneys too badly.
Right. And my liver's still in good shape, and so and I'd been sober long enough by the time it came time for the transplant that they let me on the list, because they don't tend to give alcoholics organs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You have to have been on the wagon for quite a long time then for that.
Yeah. I'd been on sober for 12 years at the point that it came time for the transplant. So I just celebrated my 20th anniversary in April of this year.
So at that point, you were still a pretty safe bet.
Yeah.
No, if you manage the 12 plus with the heart, knowing you can't drink because of the kidneys for the heart meds, you were a pretty safe bet.
Yeah.
You weren't you may have had an addictive personality at one time, but you managed to overcome it, and you weren't a suicidal personality.
Right. And they say alcoholics often switch their addictions. I just switched mine from alcohol to Heather.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Something healthier. Yeah.
It was a lot healthier. and so of course I feel so blessed, because they've given me another 20 plus years with my soulmate. And not only that, but we've just learned more and more on how to become more one since we've traveled this path that we've been on. It's really interesting, because I didn't set out to be an author with 34 books. I didn't not set. I didn't
See,
set out.
I didn't know that part. I didn't
Yeah,
even know you were an author. So
yeah.
let's go ahead and discuss that.
Okay. So because what I did was I
Yeah,
had this insane.
I mainly tuned in. I saw heart transplant survivor. I thought I had TAVR. I thought this would be a good discussion, so
Yeah.
I didn't look into you any more beyond that. But
Okay. Well, here we go.
so you're
So
also a fellow author.
yeah. So what happened was I got this insane need. My type A personality kicked in, and I had this insane need to pay that blessing forward and help other people find the joy that I have. And so 3 years after the transplant, first of all, we were able to go back to making love within a month after the transplant. Uh, uh, we were supposed to wait 6 weeks, but because of the sternum healing, but we didn't quite make it that far.
You naughty boy.
Yeah, bad. So, but I was getting on towards 65 and my erectile dysfunction was getting worse. I had actually developed ED 25 years ago at 44 years old. But,
which could have had something to do with the alcohol even.
Well, yeah, I'm sure the alcohol and so fortunately Viagra was amazing for me. I caught a 17-year younger wife 2 years after that. and have kept her, I think, happy for the last 24 years. But so my ED was getting worse. The Viagra was getting unreliable. And so I joined a couple of groups on Facebook for erectile dysfunction discussion. And all of a sudden I had found that way to pay my blessings forward because I started helping guys in the group, men and women. And before I know it, they had made me administrator of both of those groups within 6 months because I'd just been so active.
And somehow all of that communication led to a book?
Right. So what happened was one of my biggest frustrations was when when a woman would come into the group. And over the last 5+ years, there's been hundreds of women that have come to the group and said, my husband has developed ED and he refuses to go get any treatment. He will not go to the doctor. And he has cut me off from all affection, cut me off from any emotional support. He has basically abandoned me in the marriage. And some of these women had been in that situation for 5 and 10 years. And so it really frustrated me because all I could do was empathize with them. I didn't know what was causing him to do that. And because the second I lost that first erection back at 44 years old, I was to the doctor that next week going, I want that new little pill they're advertising. So I got Heather and I into a course to become certified thriving relationship coaches just to try to figure out what was going on with these men and to help these women, get their men back. And so the very first book we read was called Hold Me Tight by Dr. Sue Johnson. And in it, she talked about her attachment theory. And her attachment theory is that we were bred through thousands of years of prehistoric evolution to have an instinct for a strong attachment to our mates.
Yes.
And that those that didn't have it back in prehistoric times didn't survive and their offspring didn't survive. And so it got brought forward into modern man as an instinct that's just as strong as our need for food or need for water. And then she went on to say that most of the fights that we get into are not about what we're fighting about. It's because that instinct has detected a threat to the attachment and has thrown the body into fight or flight mode. And so you get both partners in a relationship in fight or flight mode. The logical brain leaves the building and leaves the lizard brains in control. and the lizard brains say things that aren't true and things that aren't meant and things that are really hard to take back later. And basically they see each other as the enemy. And you cannot communicate your way out of the fight or flight mode because logical communication has already left the building. And so eventually, if the couple stays in that fight or flight often and doesn't do the repair work and what happens is it starts causing damage to each other's emotional system safety. And I always say there's no sexual desire without emotional system safety. And so what happens is that the damage continues to accrue over the months and years. It eventually gets to the point where 5 years down the road, there's a couple that say they still love each other, but there's absolutely no sex happening because their emotional systems are so damaged that it's not allowing them to desire each other. And so Heather and I never really had that problem because we have always repaired quickly. But me being the perfectionist I am, I said, how can we tweak our marriage? How do we stop our triggering each other's attachment instinct? Because we would get into the fights. As humans, we seem to be wired to fight with our mates. and so the first thing I thought about was, well, we need to watch what tone we talk to each other in. Because sometimes you talk to your loved one like they're the worst person on the planet. And you think you're getting away with it because they love you, but you're really not, because you're triggering that instinct in them. And so we gave each other permission, and permission is so important in the monument method. Heather and I believe we're building this big, beautiful marble monument to our relationship.
Yeah, I see the posters behind you, and that relates to that.
Yeah. And so each loving word or kind gesture, or especially when you make love with presence and eye gazing, you're building onto that monument. But each cruel word or cold shoulder or fight that you get into is like taking a hammer and chisel to your monument. And some people keep at it until their monument's just rubble on the floor. And so we decided we wanted to fiercely protect our monument. That's the Monument Method Institute motto, is it fiercely protect the monument. And so to do that, you need to make the monument more important than your ego and more important than the fight that you're just about to get into. Because nobody wins those fights anyway. And so we gave each other permission to start calling each other out when we were using tone that wasn't necessary. You know, honey, did you really need to say that way? and so that helped some, but we were still getting into the fights and getting into fight or flight mode. And so I took it further and I said, okay, how do we stop that? Where's the emergency brake on these fights so we don't even get into fight or flight? And so I came up with the idea that we gave each other a sacred word, and ours is monument. And so anytime either one of us sees the other one heading towards the monument with the hammer and chisel, in other words, we've said something that's going to start a fight, the other one can call a monument. And that does a couple of things. First of all, it reminds us that the monument is more important than the fight we're getting ready to get into. And secondly, I called it a sacred word because we made a sacred vow that no matter how mad we were, the fight stopped there. But when you stop the fight, you don't separate and go away and try to calm down, because once you think you're calmed down and you come back together, pretty soon you're right back at it again. And so what we found out,
you've got to resolve it somehow.
Right. And so what we figured out to resolve it, that kept us from getting in fight or flight altogether, is when monument gets called, we turn towards each other, come together and embrace, and gaze lovingly into each other's eyes and patch that little spot on the monument that we just chipped out. And so the science behind that is that when you gaze into your lover's eyes, it goes into that primal brain and tells that primal brain, your attachment is safe. You can stand down. And so that's what it does. It stands the body nearly instantly, as you practice it, nearly instantly stands the body down out of fight or flight mode. So the logical brain returns to the building, and you can logically discuss what it was you're getting ready to have a big fight about. And so as you practice it, pretty soon the little fights are gone. Yeah, because the second one of you says something, the other one's calling monument, you come together, reconnect, and repair the damage. And even the big fights that you used to be mad at each other for a day and a half for are over in 5 or 10 minutes, because one or the other of us is going, wait a minute, what are we doing to our monument? And coming back and repairing it quickly. And so as you practice this, that starts repairing all that emotional system damage that gets done. So a couple that's done the emotional damage to the point that they don't make love anymore, all of a sudden they're starting to heal that emotional system safety. And they're to where their emotional system is feeling safer and safer with their partner, which in turn allows
you get that emotional contact back, you get the desire back, you get the physical contact back.
Right.
So is the first book in the series The Monument Method, like the poster behind you?
Yes. The first book is The Monument Method. The second book is The Monument Method 2, The Sanctuary Bond, which the Sanctuary Bond takes the Monument Method on into the Monument Method protects the monument from each other. The Sanctuary Bond protects the monument from the outside craziness in the world.
And there's always external pressures. Well, Thanks, Gaylen Wilson. I almost said Gaylen. No, because I know a Gaylen. Gaylen, spelled Gaylen, Wilson, Wilson. So glad you're still here with us.
So is Heather.
And I wish many more years for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care and God bless.
Okay. God bless you.
Most marriages don't end because love disappeared. They end because conflict becomes easier than connection. Voices rise. Defensiveness takes over. One shuts down, the other pushes harder, the distance grows. But what if one moment could interrupt everything? What if emotional safety came before solving the argument? The Monument Method doesn't teach couples how to win arguments. It teaches them how to stop becoming enemies. Built through real life, refined through pressure, tested through illness, stress, and the moments that break most marriages. This isn't just another relationship book. It's the beginning of something bigger. Marriage was never meant to be another battlefield. It was meant to become your refuge from everything outside its walls. What if the strongest marriages aren't the ones that never struggle, but the ones that know how to find each other again? Protect the bond. Build the refuge. The Monument Method by Gaylen and Heather Wilson. Now available on Amazon. Join the movement to protect marriages before they're broken.
Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help. Thank you for having tuned into another Constitutionalist Podcast show. I really appreciate that you stopped by. Again, please like, share, subscribe. We need you to help spread the Constitutionalist movement. Thank you again. Take care. God bless. Love you all.